All right, so for week 7 discussion, there's a couple of things you're going to do. And here's the list, and then I'm going to go over the output of what it should look like and then give you some hints that hopefully will help. So the first one is, of course, take your ending code, right, from the code alongs and create a new one in your public with week 7 and copy that code over. And this one's pretty straightforward. Create a new module for the functions for the carbon footprint. I didn't include the start. I did include the house and the household member, the size and the members as a functions in that module. And there was really no gotchas there, but just pay attention, test your code here before you move on to the last one. Okay, so again, make sure you got everything working before you move to here. Now on this last one, this one actually did take me a little bit to do. Mostly because I tried different approaches, and the approach I have is not ultimately what we'll end up with, but for me it worked. So first let me show you what it would look like, right? So in this case, if you were filling out the form, right, and let's say and let's say large, right? In this case, when you hit submit, you actually get the output from what the user. Now, in this case, I'm not doing the last name, so actually let me do this so I can see it here, right? Because I'm actually not doing the last name. Okay, and then I'll do 2 right here, apartment, just to show you that this actually is reflecting the input from the user. And this was a little bit tricky. I will tell you, and I think I have this over here, so all the bulk of this work really happened inside the render table, and I have it rolled up, but I will show you I did keep the for loop in there. But remember, when we were using these hard-coded values, right, we were able to iterate over each one to create it here, the TR, right, with the TH for the headings. But you can't do that. I mean, you could, but in this case, we're not going to use, here's what I mean. Let me just be clear about this. There are several things. Let's actually go into sources. I'm going to set a breakpoint on my main. Okay, oh, actually I don't even have to. Notice that the house size, the house M for house members and house S for house size, right, are being outputted, but not the actual points related to the two of them. So in that case, we could iterate over, but we'd have to have some logic that would say when you get to these values, right, do something different. So what my approach was for this was just in my render function, okay, just to build it inside of that loop. Okay, so that's what I did inside of here, and you can tell it took several lines to do it. Now, just to give you also what I'm going to go in here and hit inspect. So here's what you can see is my code had, of course, the table with the heading and the THs. And then here, okay, the body with the information, the name, right, the household, the house size, right, the total footprint, right, and then in here I put one TD that had both buttons, okay, and then that wraps up that TR, okay, and then when you do, now again, this is because it's actually live outputting, right, and then what you had to do there is make sure after you did an iteration, you actually changed the TR to be appended inside the loop. Okay, so do your best on this one. I know it's a little bit of a challenge, but I think it's a good one to help you start really understanding and just getting some experience with how to render And in this case, I wouldn't call it complex DOM, but it's, it's definitely not necessarily straightforward like our display was before. So those are my hints, right? So where we could do a loop through those arrays, that array that we set up, we're going to loop through the objects, but you're going to manually, my suggestion is to manually build these TDs, okay? And then do the button in one TD. And then when you're done in the loop, the last thing you would do is attach the TR, append it. Now the other thing I ended up using to get this done so that I could do it in one line is I did use the append instead of, and that's just it. And the only reason I did that was so that I could actually do multiples, right? Because each of them, just to be clear here, each of these had a different name. So again, do your best, right? Do your best to get some output in here, even if you don't get it all. Matter of fact, I would say start with, at minimum, let's say this, for minimum to get all the points for this, you want to have, let's say, name and footprint, right? Just for this output. And then what we will do next week is actually walk through this in detail, but attempt to get name and footprint, right? And if you can do more, do more. Then it's just good experience to do that. Okay. Okay, so I hope you have fun with this. Again, right, this is the video, and then, right, like I've said before, really do your attempt at coding this, and then you'll see other examples of people. There are different ways to approach this, but you definitely want to keep this in the module for render. Okay? All right, hope this helps.